This is Radio TV Phono Nut, and here we have a GE 12-inch black and white TV. The manufacturer's date's gone off of it, but the picture tube is date coded the 50th week of 79, so most likely this was made in probably early 1980. It uses the solid state XB chassis that was first introduced probably around 73 or 4. And I think it was discontinued in 81 when GE figured out that it was cheaper to buy their black and white 12-inch TVs from Samsung and Gold Star and rebadge them than it was for them to actually build them in their own GE factory right here in the United States. But of course, these older GEs like this are better than the Samsung and Gold Star rebadge sets. And what's interesting is when this chassis first came out in the mid-70s, they were still making the SF tube transistor hybrid chassis, and that chassis was also housed in the same style of cabinet as this set. However, in my opinion, the solid state chassis is the better of the two. I've seen a few of them with bad flyback transformers and some with vertical deflection problems, but usually what went wrong with these was weak picture tubes, and that's what's going on here. If any of you watch Audubon 5425's channel, he featured this set a couple of months back in one of his videos, and the picture tube was so dim that you could barely see it with the lights turned off, and his test on a CRT tester revealed absolutely no cutoff or no emission, so he rejuvenated it and got the cutoff to come up a little bit, but still no emission, and he put it back together and gave it to me because I have 2 or 3 of these XB chassis GE sets, a couple of 12-inch ones and one 15-inch one, and I figured I could use this one for parts. Well, when I fired it up, it had a watchable picture. Not great, but very watchable. I had to turn the brightness all the way up to get watchable, decent brightness. So I want to check this tube on my Syncor CR70 and just see. I'm hoping there's nothing wrong with his tube tester that prevented it from showing emission readings, because the tube obviously has some emission. And by the way, I can tell this is one of the later production chassis because of the capacitors they have mounted up here. The earlier versions had a great big old can capacitor clamped on here and sticking up here, and obviously this one doesn't have that. So yeah, this is one of the later ones. Alright, let's get the Syncor tube tester on it and see what we've got. First we need to know what tube type this is. It's a 12 VBJP4 made in Korea, probably by Clinton. Yeah, we have all of our controls adjusted as per the setup chart here. 11 volts filament, HK short good, G1 short good, cutoff, and our objective is to get the pointer in the little black square there. Anywhere in that black square is satisfactory. Now emission. That's pretty good. Alright, let's do a life test here. So we'll just hold down the black button here, and a good life test will be indicated by a meter pointer that stays up. It doesn't rapidly fall down into the red. Okay, you see that's no good at all. You see how rapidly that fell down? And that brings up a good point that I need to bring up at this time regarding CRT rejuvenation. It was never intended to be a permanent fix. It's actually a band-aid on a problem. Now, some tubes take better than others. Some tubes don't hold worth a darn, but the intended purpose of rejuvenation was pretty much to either give the service technician a chance to obtain a new CRT or to give the set owner a chance to get their money together and decide what kind of new television they wanted. But this is not 1970 or 80 or 90 anymore. This is 2019, and nobody's making new CRTs, and nobody's rebuilding old ones. So our options are to either find a good one from a junk TV or find a new old stock one somewhere, both of which can be sometimes difficult to do, or to rejuvenate the old tube and use it as long as you can. Now, I think what I'm going to do here, just since we're having fun with this TV and since it was given to me for parts, I'm going to move this over to Auto Restore. That's a low level of rejuvenation, and I'm going to see if we can improve our life test any. If it makes the tube worse, so what? Alright, Auto Restore, we'll let it warm up a second. And we'll hold this down, I believe, for 3 cycles. Okay, now back to cutoff. And see, now our cutoff's a little worse than it was before, so we probably just might have made this worse than it was to begin with. But like I said, I don't really care. Yeah, the emission's still about the same or a little better. Alright, let's run the life test again. Nah, still not anything to write home about. So yeah, this tube is running on its last leg, so to speak. And as far as CRT testers, this is a nice one, the Syncor CR70. This was a $20 flea market find, so I got lucky there. Any of the B&K models, 467 and higher, are decent. And of course, there's the later model Syncor CR7000 that's good. But any of the older testers, they're good for checking tubes, but for rejuvenation, they're kind of crude and they can sometimes cause more harm than good.
And loving country music, and that is why.
All right, here we are back together. It looks brighter on camera than it does in person, but it is watchable. So this TV is essentially running on its last leg. I'll hang on to it, and maybe I'll find some crusty old beat-up black and white TV with a 12-inch, 11-volt filament CRT in it that I can swipe. I mean, this set will clean up pretty good, and I hate to just scrap it. I'd rather find something that's beat to heck and scrap that and put the tube in this one. But for right now, this one's working. There's some Columbo, like what was probably watched on this TV whenever it was younger. And kids used to be happy to have TVs like this in their room. Now they'd act like their right arm had been cut off.
I'm on the pill.